Hey there, neighbors and naysayers. September 22nd, 2023. One of my favorite spots on the farm to check out the cows because I'm up high and they're right there, but I'm over top of all of them. Wanted to take a video the other day in the switchgrass and I just never got around to it, but the next field behind them there toward the trees is switchgrass field. They just came out of it, grazed it perfectly. I mean, left 8 inches of residue. We still got some native wildflowers in there. Still got a lot of fescue and orchard grass, but it was a good graze. I probably could even split that into 3. That's 5.5 acres. Could have split it into 3 paddocks instead of just 2. Then this paddock they're in is way bigger than it needs to be, but it's just the way that it is, and it could probably be 3/4 of that for a day. But I'm leaving to go to South Bend tomorrow, and Dad's going to be able to move them into this field right here. So that's just the way that it has to be. So kind of going away here and had to have everything set up, and so that's just the way it had to work out. I may put them back in that field for a couple hours when I get back from South Bend. We'll see how things go. So I guess if we're talking about paddock size, so I normally do the math and figure out what our paddock size is or needs to be. So there's 52 ewes at about 120 pounds. There's 27 adult cows at about 1,300 pounds. There's 20 300-pound calves, and there's 17 about 700-pound feeder calves. So I'll add all that up, figure out what 3% of that is. Actually, I figure out what 4% of that is because I figure a 25% waste or utilization factor, 75% utilization factor. So I add an extra 20%, 25% in there, and then I measure the field and give me a paddock size. But I have been doing this long enough that I kind of know where I stand and where it ought to be. That big 5.5 acre field of switchgrass, I said in my mind it ought to be 3, and then as I was building the fence, I said no, it needs to be 2. And at this point in the year, we really just we have 101 acres. We want to get around it in 35 days. If we start getting short, we know we need to feed hay. If we leave some, then that's stockpile grass. So that's just the way we do it. It's the way we've been doing it the last couple of years. I do the math, but I'm breaking the paddocks up. And if we get to the beginning paddock and it's just not enough, then we know we either need rain right away or we need to start feeding some hay. And we're getting about there, about 2 weeks from, okay, we got to make a decision here. Either we're going to find a sacrifice area and we're going to keep going, depending on whether we get rain soon or not. It's amazing how dry things are. Not by looking at my pasture, you can't tell it. But the regrowth is where you see it in a rotationally grazed or management intensive graze pasture. It's the regrowth. I was just at a producer that was continuously grazed here just a couple hours ago, and his pastures are burnt up, dry, burnt up, crispy, in fact. So that it's a different indicator really when you go switch to this management intensive grazing, and it's the growth and what you've got to come onto. The grass is still going to look pretty, still going to look green, and still going to look good. It's just ain't going to be nothing there. It's going to be the volume of it just isn't there. So I hate to be that way. I hate to be here and be thinking that, but really to start feeding hay, we'd be looking at first week in October. That's too early. We have enough hay to get through if we need to. I don't want to use that much hay. Chances are we would use that much, we'd still get some regrowth and we'd still go off of hay for a couple weeks, or I'd feed the stocker steers on stockpile grass. So that's not all bad in and of itself. The hardest part will be talking Dad into feeding hay, because he still sees green out there and he says there's still grass, and there's not going to be any, I'm afraid, unless we get some rain. They're talking about rain Saturday into Sunday if this tropical storm gets here. Some stations are saying yes, some are saying no. I sure hope they're right. I hope we're going to get some measurable precipitation out of it. The last shot of rain we got, really good rain we got really good growth because the weather is just awesome as far as temperature goes. We're just not getting the rainfall that we need. And we've got plenty out there, and we're still growing grass. We're growing more than the continuous grazers because of the organic matter we had. It's just not growing as well as it would if we were getting the right amount of rain when we needed it. I hate to complain. It's still beautiful out here. if we have to start feeding hay a month early, that just adds to our fertility program. It's not the end of the world. I have started to feed hay in August before, so October wouldn't be all that bad, other than it just makes the winter even longer. That's all. I hate winter. In the future, I hope I won't be feeding hay. I'll be grading stockpile grass, but I'm committed to this is one more year of feeding hay, and then hopefully we won't be doing that next year. So with that, I'll say we'll see you next time.